Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, I want you to do something for me. Just close your eyes for a second. Now, mentally fast forward. Think maybe 30, 40 years from now. When you picture yourself, say, in your 80s or 90s, what do you actually see? Is it, vitality, freedom, activity? Or does that other picture creep in? The one most of us kind of fear. That slow decline, maybe disease, and just a growing list of things you used to love doing, but, well, now you just can't. We've spent the last week really immersing ourselves in the science and I guess the strategy of longevity. We've been focusing specifically on the philosophy that Dr. Peter Attia lays out, and the message seems pretty clear. How we age, that whole story. It's not actually fixed. So our mission today is to pull out the concrete plan, the actual manual, the steps you can take to stop being just a passive observer of your health and really start designing an active, capable future. We're talking about maximizing long-term health. And yeah, starting right now.
It's such a necessary shift in thinking because the core problem, as Attia sees it, is our current medical system. He calls it Medicine 2.0. And it's basically set up entirely for reaction, not prevention.
Right. Medicine 2.0, that's just standard care today. And it's amazing in a crisis, don't get me wrong. If you have a heart attack, it can save your life. But it fundamentally waits. It waits for that diagnosis, for the disease to show up before it jumps in.
Exactly. It's the firefighter model, right? The house is already burning. Then they rush in with the hoses, the pills, the surgery.
So the whole point is shifting to what he calls Medicine 3.0.
Yes. And the key difference is the time horizon. It's looking decades ahead. The goal isn't just managing sickness once it's there, it's aggressively pursuing health long before sickness even gets a foothold. The analogy he uses is pretty powerful.
The cliff analogy.
Yeah, the goal isn't calling the ambulance after you fall off the cliff. Medicine 3.0 is about seeing the cliff edge way ahead of time, backing away from it, and, crucially, building a solid guardrail so you never fall in the first place.
Okay, but let's be practical for a second. This kind of really aggressive, proactive care, it sounds expensive. Like maybe something only the wealthy can access, not someone relying on standard healthcare. Are the principles here actually applicable to everyone?
That's a really important point. And yes, some of the advanced diagnostics, the super personalized stuff, that can be costly. But the principles underpinning Medicine 3.0, they are absolutely accessible because they mostly rely on lifestyle changes, things you can control. And what is this proactive approach aiming to prevent? It's stopping what Attia calls the 4 horsemen.
Ah, yes, the 4 horsemen. Let's list them out. These are the big chronic diseases, right? The ones most likely to wreck our quality of life.
That's it. Number 1, heart disease, and that's an umbrella term, includes atherosclerosis, stroke, all cardiovascular issues. 2, cancer. 3, neurodegenerative diseases. Think Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. And number 4, metabolic dysfunction. Primarily things like insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes.
And the critical thing he emphasizes is that these diseases don't just pop up overnight.
Not at all. There's this long, silent development period. He calls it the runway. You might get diagnosed in your 60s or 70s, but the biological groundwork, the insulin resistance starting, maybe some plaque buildup, low-level inflammation, that often starts way back in your 30s or 40s. And these 4 are interconnected too, like metabolic dysfunction. It often pours fuel on the fire for the other 3.
So the time to intervene isn't when you get the bad news, it's now, while you're still feeling healthy. Which leads us to a really fundamental idea in his work, shifting focus from lifespan to healthspan.
Absolutely. Lifespan is just the total number of years you're alive. Simple count. Healthspan, though, that's different. It's the period of your life where you are actually healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally vibrant, free from significant disease or disability.
And the question becomes, what's the value of living to 100 if those last 15 or 20 years are spent in pain, unable to function, unable to enjoy life?
Precisely. The goal isn't just more years, it's making sure those years are good years. Maximize the health span within the lifespan.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually, but how do you make that concrete? How do you plan for it? That's where the centenarian decathlon comes in, right?
Exactly. It's a brilliant framing device. It forces you to think specifically about what physical tasks you want to be able to do late in life. These become your personal 10 events, your decathlon. And the crucial part is you start training for them now.
I really like this because it shifts the focus. It's not just about avoiding bad stuff like heart attacks. It's about actively training for specific, positive, often joyful activities you want in your future.
Think about the examples. Maybe one of your events is having the strength, the shoulder stability, the core strength, to lift a wiggly grandchild over your head when you're 85.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's having the stamina to go for a brisk 30-minute walk with friends, still chatting, keeping up. Or, and this is a big one he highlights, simply being able to get up off the floor easily without using your hands for support.
That floor test. It really hits home. It's a mix of mobility, strength, balance, all in one basic movement. And if you're already struggling with that in your 50s or 60s, well, it doesn't bode well, does it?
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Because that capacity, once it starts slipping, it degrades fast. The core insight here is pretty stark. If you want to do these things in your 90s, you need to build a significant reserve of strength, stability, and aerobic capacity today.
A reserve, like saving up physical currency for later.
Kind of, you're building up this buffer because aging will erode your capacity.
Right.
It's inevitable. So you need to start from a much higher peak. You want to arrive at age 70, 80, still functioning at a high level,
Yeah.
not scrambling to regain basic abilities you've already lost.
Yeah.
Because regaining it then, it's incredibly hard, sometimes impossible.
Okay, so the centenarian decathlon defines the specific goals. Now let's get into the how, the training plan. Attia structures this around 4 key pillars, and he starts with the absolute powerhouse exercise. He's really unambiguous about this. He calls exercise the single most potent longevity drug we have.
Nothing else even comes close. Its impact across all 4 horsemen is just profound. But, and this is important, it's not just go for a jog and tick the box.
Right, there's more nuance. The exercise pillar actually has 4 distinct components that all need attention.
Correct. You have to train them intentionally.
So let's start with the base layer, stability.
Stability is all about, well, being stable.
Mm.
It's your core strength, your balance, your ability to move correctly without compensating. Why is it foundational? Because it prevents injuries. If your movement patterns are off or your core is weak, trying to build serious strength or power on top of that is just asking for trouble. You need that control first.
Makes sense. Build the chassis before you upgrade the engine. Okay, after stability.
Strength.
Strength training.
All right.
This is arguably the best defense we have against sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia, that's the age-related loss of muscle mass, right?
Exactly. And it's debilitating. But strength is crucial for another reason we touched on, metabolic health. Muscle acts as the body's primary metabolic sink.
Meaning muscle tissue is hungry for glucose. It pulls sugar out of your bloodstream to fuel itself, especially after you eat or exercise. So the more muscle mass you have, the better your body is at managing blood sugar. You become more insulin sensitive, which is a direct counterattack against metabolic dysfunction, one of the horsemen. Plus, strength is what lets you interact with the world. Lift things, open jars, push doors.
Okay, stability, strength. Then we move into the cardiovascular side, which he splits into 2 distinct types. First is aerobic efficiency, or Zone 2.
Zone 2 cardio. This is your lower intensity, steady state work. Think brisk walking, easy cycling, maybe swimming. The intensity where you're working, you could feel it, but you could still hold a conversation. Maybe a bit breathy, but you can talk.
And the purpose of this is Zone 2.
It's all about the mitochondria. Those are the little power plants inside your cells. Zone 2 training makes your mitochondria incredibly efficient using fat for fuel. It builds endurance, improves metabolic flexibility, and basically forms the foundation of your aerobic fitness.
Got it. Build the efficient base. Then, the other end of the spectrum, anaerobic performance, measured by VO2 max.
Right. This is your peak capacity, your maximum oxygen uptake. Training this involves high-intensity intervals, short bursts of all-out effort where you are really pushing it, gasping for air.
Think sprints, hard hill climbs.
Exactly. While Zone 2 improves the engine's fuel efficiency, VO2 max training actually increases the size and power of the engine. And the data here is striking. Attia points out that having a high VO2 max is one of the single strongest predictors of longevity. It's a massive health marker.
So you need both. The long, slow stuff and the short, hard stuff.
You absolutely need both. He suggests a rough split, maybe around 80% of your cardio time spent building that base in Zone 2, and about 20% pushing the peak with high-intensity VO2 max work.
Okay, that's a really clear framework for exercise. Pillar 1 covered. Let's move to Pillar 2, nutrition. This is often where things get really dogmatic, keto versus vegan versus whatever. But his approach seems more flexible.
It is, because the focus isn't on a specific named diet. It's about achieving certain metabolic outcomes. It needs to be personalized, but there are key principles. One major focus is getting adequate protein.
Adequate protein, why is that so critical, especially as we age?
Because something called anabolic resistance.
Anabolic resistance, what's that?
It means as you get older, your muscles become less responsive to the signals telling them to grow or repair, even when protein is available. So to overcome that resistance and maintain muscle mass, that critical metabolic sink we talked about, older adults actually need more protein than younger adults, relatively speaking.
Interesting. So your protein needs might actually go up, not down.
Correct. If you're not diligent about protein intake, especially combined with strength training, you'll struggle to maintain muscle. Beyond protein, the other big nutritional goals are maintaining healthy blood sugar levels and managing weight effectively. Again, directly targeting that metabolic dysfunction horseman.
Right. Avoid the metabolic chaos. Okay, pillar 3, sleep.
Yes. And the emphasis here is just how non-negotiable it is. It's not a luxury. It's a fundamental biological necessity.
We all know we feel better after a good night's sleep, but what's actually happening under the hood?
A lot. Crucial maintenance. For one, your brain has this cleaning system, the lymphatic system. It's much more active during sleep. It clears out metabolic waste products, potentially including things like amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's. So, direct link to neurodegenerative disease prevention. Sleep is also when you consolidate memories and when your body does a huge amount of cellular repair and hormone regulation.
So skimping on sleep isn't just making you grumpy, it's actively undermining your long-term health. It's literally accelerating the horsemen.
That seems to be the takeaway. Poor sleep is linked to pretty much all of them.
Given its importance, what are some of the practical tips he emphasizes for actually improving sleep?
He focuses heavily on controlling your environment and your routines. Things like temperature. Keeping your bedroom cool generally helps initiate and maintain sleep. Light is another big one, really managing light exposure, especially minimizing blue light from screens in the hours before bed. And consistency. Trying to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on weekends, really helps anchor your body's natural circadian rhythm.
Cool, dark, and consistent. Sounds simple, but hard to stick to sometimes. Okay, final pillar, pillar 4. Emotional health. He calls this the art component of longevity. It feels a bit less quantifiable than VO2 max or blood glucose.
It might be harder to measure precisely, but he argues it's just as critical. It's the glue holding everything else together. You can have the perfect exercise routine, eat impeccably, sleep soundly. But if you're profoundly lonely, chronically stressed out, or feel like you lack purpose in life, your health and longevity are still compromised.
And there's a biological link there too, right? It's not just feeling sad is bad for you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Chronic stress is a major driver. It keeps cortisol levels high, promotes inflammation throughout the body. And that inflammation is a key factor fueling heart disease, cancer, neurodegeneration, even metabolic issues. So this pillar is really about actively managing stress, cultivating deep social connections, and finding meaning or purpose in your life. Longevity isn't just about the physical machine, it's about the quality of the experience in that machine.
Looking at this whole framework, the 4 pillars, the centenarian decathlon, the shift to medicine 3.0, it feels less like a passive health guide and more like, well, like a manual for taking charge.
It really is. The underlying message is incredibly empowering. It's a call to stop being a passive patient, just waiting for things to go wrong. Instead, become the CEO of your own health. Actively manage your risks, build those reserves, make conscious investments.
Because the takeaway isn't that your future health is predetermined by your genes or just bad luck.
Exactly. It's that the choices you make today, deciding to go for that zone 2 walk, making sure you hit your protein target, winding down properly before bed, these are direct investments in your future self. You are literally building the physical and mental capacity that future you will rely on to stay active, engaged, and vital.
So the ultimate goal isn't necessarily about trying to cheat death forever. It's about extending that period of vitality, that health span, for as long as possible within your lifespan. Okay, let's wrap up there. We'll leave you with the central challenge that comes out of this deep dive, a question for you to really think about and, more importantly, act on. What's one specific event you want to put in your own personal centenarian decathlon? And what's the very first tangible step you can take today to start training for it?